Hi everyone, it's Debbie from cariadcards.co. Thank you very much for joining me today. And today this is the card that we're going to make, although we're going to do it in a different colourway. This one was made with So Saffron, crushed curry and pumpkin pie, with crushed curry border here and old olive leaves. We're going to do this in blues and rich raspberry. So we're going to start off with 6" by 6" card blank. I will put all of the sizes and the colours on my blog for you. I've got a piece of card, tempting turquoise, cut to 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres or 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. Piece of whisper white card, cut to 13.5 centimetres by 13.5 or 13.5, so that would be 5.25 inches by 5.25 inches. Now, the way we did this was I've got the swallowtail stamp, beautiful stamp. I have used it before, absolutely, I love this stamp. Anything to do with butterflies I love, as many of us do. And I've used embossing powder, clear embossing powder, but you could use white or you could use any other colour for that matter, but for this effect clear or white works really well. And I've heat embossed it and then I've used my inks to colour it in, so I'll show you how I did that. So first of all you want to run your embossing buddy over it just to make sure that there's no greasy marks on there and no static, because embossing powder will stick to anything like that. And then you want your Versamark ink pad or another ink pad that is specifically designed to work with embossing powders. You can't use normal ink pads to do this. Now the beauty of this ink pad, or any of these embossing ink pads, is that it stays wet for quite a while. You know, you can go off, make yourself a cup of tea, go and do what you need to do, and it's not going to dry out. I'm just going to put a little bit of scrap paper on here because I know I'm going to make an awful mess, because I'm going to do my stamp over to the side. It's not fully on the card, it's over on the edge. So I might as well just save my nice new piece of card I've got underneath. So just line that up. It's a bit of sort of, you know, where do you think the best place for it is? It always looks a little bit better when you have it at an angle. I use a wood block for these larger stamps. I just find them a lot easier to use and to put more pressure on, but that's just personal preference. I have got larger stamps in the clear backing and they do work perfectly well. I think with stamps it really is what you think works, what you find works for you. I've got just a piece of scrap card here and then Stampin' Up transparent or clear embossing powder that I'm just going to sprinkle liberally all over. As I say, white would be fine with this. I'll try it in some other colours, see how it comes out. So make sure you've covered it all, and if not, just go back, take it off and then go back and do it a second time. You want to make sure that you've covered all the areas. And because it's clear, I guess it probably it's quite difficult, quite hard to see to make sure you've done it all. So just make sure you've done every single section and then tap it to get the loose powder off and pop it straight back into your jar. Right, and put your lid on, because if you sneeze it's going to go everywhere. Right, be careful how you handle it, don't stick your finger right in the middle of that. Now I'm going to just use my heat tool to set this, and you'll see the colour start to change, but you won't be able to hear me speak very easily. Okay, so you can see that the colour has changed now and the clear embossing powder has all melted. So I'm just going to leave that just to dry for a second while I just talk you through what I'm going to do next. Now, You can see that I've got colour on here, and I did that using 3 colours of ink and my finger sponge daubers. But you want to make sure that you don't get any bits of ink over the edges, which is quite difficult to do if you don't use a mask. So what I did was I just stamped the same image and cut it out by hand, leaving the outside edges. And then, excuse me, I've just got a bit of low tack tape, and I'm just going to pop that over, and then just carefully place this over the edges of the butterfly, being as careful as you can to cover it all, but it's you know, if you miss a couple of bits, it's not essential. So now I've got that on, I'm going to take my lightest colour. I'm working with Soft Sky. I haven't tried these colours together like this, so let's see how they work. Now there's a lot of the embossing powder right in the centre. You're not going to get a lot of colour in the centre. I've started off with the lighter colour in the middle, and I'm using 3 colours. You can start off in any way you want. You can start off light to dark, dark to light, whatever works for you. Now don't forget, you can always build this up, so don't go too heavy to start with. Right, the next colour I'm going to use is Tempting Turquoise. I've no idea how this is going to look. I'm sure it's going to be gorgeous because it is such a pretty colour. This is quite an intense colour, so I'm being careful to start with not to put too much on. I can always pop some more on in a moment, and then I'm going to be brave and have a go with some rich razzleberry. Right, and when you're happy with the effect, you can pop your inks away for a moment, and then we'll just take this off, and this is the moment of truth. You should find, if you've used low tack tape, that your mask comes off really easily and it doesn't leave any marks on your card. There, I'm happy with that. I like that effect. The next thing that I'm going to do is stamp the sentiment, Just Because, and that comes from this set, A Dozen Thoughts, and it's there, the Just Because. I really like this set. There's so many different sentiments on here that it's suitable for many different occasions, and I just love the fonts, especially this one. There's something about this curly font that I fell in love with as soon as I saw it and I probably do use it a lot, but I like to just send cards to friends just to say, you know, hello, not for any particular reason. So I've just stamped that on there. Isn't that pretty? And then I'm going to use Hair Pizzazz to stamp the leaves. Let's have a look around there again. So we've got leaves around the edge, and I've used my Kinda Eclectic stamp with the leaf stamp here. And I'm just going to stamp those on randomly around the edge. You could leave it like that. You could do what I often do and just put an embossed border around it. I just wanted to bring that extra little bit of colour in. So I'm just literally randomly stamping them in anywhere where I've got quite a lot of white space. I'm not putting too much on, just sort of the edges of the leaves. Just so it looks like the butterflies going through the branches of a tree, I suppose. Okay, and then the last thing that I created, and again you could leave it like that, I've just made some little flowers. For that I've used the Blossom Flower Punch from the Itty Bitty Accents pack, and I've punched out, where are we, 3 of the one colour and 2 of the darker colour. Well, I've actually punched them all out in white, and then I've used my sponge daubers to colour them. So I've made 5. I quite like working with odd numbers when I'm using flowers or anything to do with nature. Right, so I'm going to use my, I've probably still got enough ink on here. Let's see, let's try it. I may have to pick a bit more up, but there's usually quite a bit left on these before they dry. So that's the rich raspberry, and then I'm just going to use the tempting turquoise. So I've just sponged those 2 in rich raspberry and 3 in tempting turquoise. I'm going to put a little bit of shape into the flowers, as you've seen me do many different times. So I've got my paper piercing mat here, my paper piercing tool with the rounded end. So I'm just literally going to go into the centre of each of these and just press down. And it's amazing the difference doing that makes. It suddenly changes it into a flower. You can leave them like that, or you can pop a pretty into the middle. I'm going to use some of the gorgeous Stampin' Up rhinestones. Now you do need to just press down on those because the centre of the flower is now not straight. There isn't, if you just pop them on and leave them, they don't tend to stick so well because there isn't that much cardboard for them to purchase onto. So just use your finger or your pokey tool to make them stay. Okay, and then we can just put this to one side, assemble our card. So we'll take our card base and our tempting turquoise cardstock, pop a bit of glue around the outside edge. You can use snail or fast fuse or double-sided tape or whatever you prefer. And then pop some glue around here. Make sure, don't put too much on if you're using glue. You don't need a lot, just a bit around the edges will be, especially with this kind of glue, because it does hold it firm once it's adhered. Make sure it's the right way up. And then let's just pop that down. Oh, I do like those colours. And the very last thing is to put the flowers on, and I'm just going to use some glue dots for those. I'm going to just pop them around so that I can see that I'm happy with the placement of them before I start to glue them down. So once you're happy with the placement, glue dots are, I find, a wonderful way of sticking things like this together. pop one on the back. Once they're stuck nice and fast, they're not going to come off. And there you have it. We've got 2 cards, same design, very different colours, and it really does affect how they look. We've got the yellows and the oranges here, and the blues and the rich raspberries on this card. I hope you've enjoyed watching how I've created that. Thank you very much for joining me, Debbie at cariadcards.co.